Alright, what's up guys? Whalen TV here, and today we will be ranking every team's NBA trade deadline from S being the best to F being the worst and everything in between. So trade deadline wrapped up at 2:30 Central Time, I believe. I think it was like 2:30 Central Time, but it's over now and I'm going to be breaking down and just putting this in this nice, great tier list. So first, we got the Atlanta Hawks. So the key additions for the Hawks were Jonathan Kuminga. And wait, before I continue, the Trae Young trade does count for the Hawks. Just saying. Okay, so key additions: Jonathan Kuminga, Buddy Hield, C.J. McCollum, Corey Kispert, Gabe Vincent. They lost Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, Vit Krilic, something like that, and Jock Landale. Pretty self it's pretty self-explanatory why this is an F. You trade Trae Young for a bag of Cheetos. Uh, you get Jonathan Kuminga. You also lost. I didn't even mention. You also lost Kristaps Porzingis for Jonathan Kuminga, which I like Jonathan Kuminga, but it does not help you get out of this F. You gave up a good shooter in DeAndre Hunter. So yeah, this is an F might be a little too harsh. I'm gonna put a D. I'm gonna put a D actually, and that's just because they made moves. There are teams that made no moves at all. Next, we got the Boston Celtics. Okay, so the assets that they got were Nikola Vucevic and a second round pick, and they gave up Anthony Simons, Chris Boucher, and Josh Minott. Uh, it was. Mm, this is gonna. I'm tweedling between these two here. I'm gonna put it in an A, just because there are better trades that I just can't, like, I'll have to put an S. Put it in A. This was huge for Boston. They got a center that I think can start for them for many years, and Vucevic. There's not a lot to say. That's Vucevic for Anthony Simons. Is like it was Vuce for Simons was like the two players, like the two big players, and then also on top of that, they got a second round pick. So yeah, this was a sweet deal for Boston. I almost want to put it in S, but I'm gonna keep it in A. But this, if there was like an A S gap, it'd be right here. But I'm gonna keep it in A. Brooklyn Nets, they got Josh Minott, Hunter Tyson, and O'Shea Abjai, and then they waived Cam Thomas. So I'm gonna put this at a C. They waived Cam Thomas for two reasons. They want to tank, and also they don't want to pay him. But he's still Cam Thomas. He's a good player. I'm actually I'm gonna put that at a B, and yes, I'm counting people that they dropped because it was all part of like the trade deadline news. So I'm gonna put this at a B, just because I felt like they really didn't give up a lot for anything. They didn't cut down a roster that barely had a a base. They just let go of Cam Thomas to build a better foundation for the future. So I'm gonna put him at B. Nothing crazy. Just this is really just good for the future for the Nets. We got the Chicago Bulls, who they got Anthony Simons, Jaden Ivey, Colin Sexton, Ousmane Dieng, and Yabusele. And they gave up Vucevic, Ayo Desumu, Kobe White, and Mike Conley. I want to say, before I put them in C, I do like Jaden Ivey. I think Jaden Ivey was huge, but I think Kobe White you could have got more for, and Vucevic you got raw. I almost want to put him at D. When I'm thinking about, dang, they traded Vucevic to the Celtics, the second best team in the East, without their best player. And that's up for debate, but without a key superstar, and the Bulls traded a very, very solid big man. I kind of want to put them at D. I do kind of want to put them at D. Me just Jaden Ivey is kind of saving them. Oh, I'm putting them at D. I can't. Mm-mm. I can't. I mean, they gave the Celtics Vucevic. This has to be a D. Cavaliers, James Harden, Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis. That was their additions. And then Darius Garland and Lonzo Ball they gave up. It's just, that's self explanatory. They got a guy in James Harden who can space the floor, or space the floor, help space the floor. He's going to be their one guard. He averages the most assists in the NBA, 25-point per game scorer. This is a win now move for the Cavaliers, and I think that the Celtics could win this season, especially with this addition. This is an S tier move for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Next, we got my Dallas Mavericks. Huh. Key additions, and it just makes it sound so much worse when you realize this all started because of a Luka trade. Chris Middleton, Tyus Jones, Malachi Brahma, and Marvin Bagley. So we traded Brahma for Tyus Jones. And then we gave up Anthony Davis, Jane Hardy, D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell was no good. Anthony Davis was always hurt. And Jaden Hardy actually really liked Jane Hardy. I know a lot of people on the Mavericks really actually liked Jane Hardy and thought he could be a good contributor for this team. So I that Jane Hardy loss was the big one that I cared about. I cared about it more than the AD one, in my opinion. But I'm gonna put the Mavericks at B. I feel like they didn't get I felt like they could have got a better return for Anthony Davis, and also they did get two first round picks. By the way, just want to say that. But I felt like they could have got more for AD. But it's not even really about you know getting a lot for AD. It was about getting off of AD's money and just starting fresh with Cooper Flag. And I think we could have got more, and if we got a little more, it'd be an A trade, maybe even an S, depending on what we got. But we didn't get the best value, but we didn't get terrible value. A guy like Chris Middleton can come in and be effective immediately. So Tyus Jones is going to help Cooper Flag a lot. So yeah, I'll put him at B, right here around that middle area. It was a good trade for the Mavericks, and I don't know why everyone's kind of shaming on that trade. I really did kind of like that trade. But anyways, next we got the Detroit Pistons. And these are all written down in like chronological order. So, yeah, just so if I'm skipping over like the Nuggets and the Hornets because I'm doing this in chronological order. So, anyways, for the Pistons, they got Kevin Herter and Dryal Saric, and they gave up Jaden Ivey. To Netflix. Golden State Warriors. They acquired Kristaps Porzingis, and they gave up Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield. A, actually. Uh, Once again, like I said, Kristaps Porzingis is really good. In my video last night, I said Kristaps Porzingis, when he was on the Mavericks, he was such a key contributor, and I still think he can be that same key contributor. So I really like the Warriors here at A. Kristaps Porzingis was a huge get for them, so that's where I will place them. Next, we got the Indiana Pacers. They got Ivic Zubac and Kobe Brown. They gave up Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and two first round picks. Talk about replacing Miles Turner. That's how you do it. Ivic Zubac is borderline top 10 center in the league. I think in my opinion, he's in that top 10 conversation. When Tyrese comes back next year, you're giving Tyrese a guy that can that's better than Miles Turner. And you've seen the success that Halliburton had with Miles Turner. They're going to have a very high draft pick. Very high draft pick. They gave up a really solid guy in Benedict Mathurin who can shoot the three real well, spaces the floor, plays decent defense. Isaiah Jackson wasn't really a huge loss. And then the two first round picks, they're banking on them to be good by the point these picks are. So, and I think they will be. I mean, they were in the finals last year with the healthy Tyrese Halliburton. Pascal Siakam still on this team. Yeah, this is an S tier trade. It's just S tier, easy S tier. Next, we got the Clippers. So the Clippers cleared house. We can put it that way. They got Darius Garland, Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, two first round picks. They lose out on James Harden, which I don't want to grade them on the James Harden trade too much because it was a requested trade. It wasn't something that they did. And we just talked about Zubac and Chris Paul. Um, hmm, they really set themselves up good for the future. I can't lie, but they're going B. I know I just had them in S, but something just popped into my mind. The Warriors have, I mean, not the Warriors, the Thunder have their first round pick unprotected, and the Clippers are going to be atrocious in the second half of the season. They are going to be pitiful. The only guy they have is Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi might start averaging 35 points per game. Not even kidding. Like, this roster is gutted, and I think they should have waited another year to do it because you're letting a team like the Thunder go out there and get Debanta, Boozer, or Peterson. If you let them get Peterson, you think of this potential lineup: Shea at the one, Peterson at the two, uh, Williams at the three, Chet at the four, Hartenstein at the five, maybe a different center, but probably Hartenstein at the five. That's ridiculous. Uh, see, I have to. The trades weren't bad, but what they did was pitiful. What they did to the rest of the league, including themselves, they're not thinking this affects them too. The Warriors are not the Warriors. The Thunder are in the West. I don't know why I keep saying the Warriors. The Thunder are in the West. You do not ever, under any circumstance, give them an unprotected pick and then tank the year that they have your pick. And I know you weren't good coming into the season and you weren't really good, but at the same time you were hot. You were like 15 out of your last 21, 17 out of your last 21 or something crazy like that. So you went like 17 and 4, something pretty close to that. I don't know the exact number, but that's good. And I think you keep James Harden, or not James Harden. I feel like you let go of James Harden, but you keep Zubac. So you can just continue to compete and hope that that pick drops and drops. Maybe even fight for a play-in spot so that that pick has a low chance of getting number one unless you're the Dallas Mavericks. But yeah, I was not a huge fan of this. Like, I like the assets that they got for everyone, but at the same time, what went down was just, and what the Thunder are going to get from this is too huge for me to put it around these two areas, which I really wanted to. So we'll give them a C. Next, we got the Memphis Grizzlies. Um, So they acquired Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendrickson, Kyle Anderson, and three first round picks for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Eric Gordon. I would put him at S, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is a superstar. We know Jaren Jackson Jr. is a superstar. But what they did for their team, the foundation that, like, they're scrapping their foundation. And I like how, and I wanted a jaw trade to happen because I wanted crazy, I wanted good videos to make. And if a jaw trade happened, the video would be pretty solid. But I like how they didn't let the pressure of trading John Morant accept a low ball deal, if you know what I'm trying to say. So they didn't just give him up, like they put him out there and they wanted his value and no one was willing to give them that value that they wanted, so they kept him. They kept him and I'm sure they're going to move him in the offseason. Like that's probably the plan now. Same thing with the Bucks, which we'll get to, but I like how the Grizzlies weren't didn't get caught up in the heat of the moment and stayed content with what they had because they built pretty solid for the future. I mean, I like a guy like Walter Clayton Jr. to come off your bench and maybe play for you. Taylor Hendricks, very good shooter, good defender. I like Taylor Hendricks in this deal. Kyle Anderson's just Kyle Anderson. He's just a good vet to have. And then three first round picks. That just sweetened the pot up real nice. And so I really like this from the Grizzlies. I would put him S. I would, but they did lose a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. So I'm gonna keep them at A. But I mean, still a very successful trade deadline nonetheless for the Grizzlies. The Timberwolves, they got DeSumo and Julian Phillips, and I mean, they got off Mike Conley's contract. like a contract dump thing. So, I mean, they didn't really lose anybody. I mean, they lost Rob Dillingham. Uh, I think Rob Dillingham was too valuable. Even with the way he's struggling, it feels like he never had a chance in Minnesota, so I put this at F. I don't like the Timberwolves trade deadline. So that's my look on it. I know some people are gonna be like, "Oh, you just put them F. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." I think it was horrible. That's just my opinion. New York Knicks, they acquired Jose Alvarado and Dalen Terry, and they gave up Yabusele. I mean, it's just an average trade deadline. Not a lot to say about the Knicks, to be honest. Just kind of an average trade deadline. I mean, not even average, just below average, but I mean, not in a bad sense. Like, I feel like they won the trades that they made. So yeah, Oklahoma City Thunder, where are they at? I hate it, and I hate the Thunder, and we all know I hate the Thunder. But they get Jared McCain in a 2026 first round pick via Houston. They gave up Usman Dieng, but the real reason, and even with that trade, they're here, right? But the real reason is because of these fuckers right here. They gave the Thunder a top five pick, probably. The Thunder, the defending champions, and probably you're gonna win it again, have a top five pick. Yeah, I mean they almost like they won the trade deadline in my opinion, and they didn't make an impactful trade. They just let the Clippers mess up again. They just waited for the Clippers to mess up. So yeah, next up we got the Phoenix Suns. They got Cole Anthony and Amari Coffey. They gave up Nick Richards, Nigel Hayes Davis. I mean, once again, it's just an average trade deadline. Like I'm not once again not even average, just kind of mid. So Toronto, where's Toronto at? Right here. They're using the old logo here. Uh, so they get Chris Paul just to say, don't come because they don't want him, and they get Jackson Davis. They didn't really give anybody up. It was a small trade, so they're trying to get off money. So I'll also put this at C. There, you realize there's a lot of teams in C because there's not a lot of moves that they made, so it's really hard to just, you know, throw them at B because they saved a lot of money. Like the Mavericks saved a lot of money. They didn't really save any money because a guy like Chris Paul is not gonna be worth too much nowadays. So this is just average. You know what I mean? This is average. Next up, we got the Utah Jazz. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr. They got Lonzo Ball, who is not going to actually be at the Jazz. They got Chris, and they gave up Jock Landale and just a lot of picks, a lot of non-valuable stuff to the Grizzlies for Jaren Jackson Jr. Um, so, and I'm kind of struggling where to put this because it's like, mm, I'm gonna have to put this in S. I'm going to have to put this in S. And you can be mad at me for it all you want, but it was nice. It was really nice. They got Jaren Jackson Jr. They got Laurie Marketing. They're going to get Walker Kessler back when he's healthy. That is a dangerous, dangerous front court. Marketing can play the three next year. Do you know how crazy that sounds? They got a guy, and Ace Bailey's still there, who was off limits apparently. So yeah, they got a young future, bright future. It's an S tier trade. The Wizards, they get Anthony Davis, Trey Young, D'Angelo Russell, Jaden Hardy, you know, and they gave up CJ McCollum, Corey Kispert, you know, Chris Middleton. They didn't give up a lot for a guy like AD. And this is more of a circumstantial thing. If AD can stay healthy, then this is huge. So yeah, I like this for the Wizards. I like this is such a win-win trade for the Mavericks and the Wizards. But you get Trey Young and Anthony Davis in one trade deadline type of thing, you're immediately up here with some of the best. And I want to put them here, but there's no guarantee that these guys are going to stay on the floor. And I know there's never a guarantee, but there's a pretty high chance that they probably won't. Okay. Sixers, self-explanatory. They gave up Jerry McCain for a first-round pick just because the guy was coming off an injury and they didn't give him a chance. And you can tell I'm disappointed by that, and you can hear it in my voice. This was terrible for them. I mean, there's not a lot that the rest of these teams did, like at all. Hmm, this is tough. If these teams that didn't really do anything, I'm just gonna throw them here. Not a lot that these guys did. I mean, the Lakers, I guess the Lakers will be at C. You know, they got good shooters at the deadline, but at the same time, I think this roster really need help. And I know I'm kind of rushing through this last portion, but there's not a lot to happen. I'm quiet and I'm not really talking. I'm just kind of clicking and putting them there. But not a lot happened here. But I'll keep the Lakers at C. Just just continue. Now, you see the one team left standing, the Bucks. S tier. And they didn't do anything because they knew Giannis's trade value and they know how big of a superstar Giannis is. And if they want to move him, they're going to move him for exactly what they want. And teams were not willing to give them that. And they're content with keeping a top 3 player in the league. I like it. Top 5 player in the league, maybe. SGA, Luca. Yeah, top 4 player in the league. So, yeah. I like the fact that they didn't feel pressure to trade Giannis. He didn't come out and demand a trade. So, like it's the same situation with the Memphis Grizzlies. You're not it like they didn't feel pressure to trade a superstar. And I think they're gonna end up moving him at the deadline. Or not the deadline, the off season. But in the off season, the teams will know more where they'll stand, you know, and they'll be willing to move more assets in the off season than they would be in the middle of a season. So that they have time and then the season can get ready and they'll know what they're going in. That's why some of these teams, a lot of these teams here in D, didn't strike in the trade deadline because I feel like they just didn't want to make a move. Like the Spurs didn't need to. I feel like the Pelicans should have traded Zion. Miami should have made a few moves, tried to go up here and get Giannis. Rockets didn't need to. Nuggets didn't need to. Like Trailblazers could have tried something. But there's a lot of teams that knew that they didn't have to make trades, and they didn't. And that's because they're content on where they're at and think they can contend now. There's no point in risking that, Nico Harrison, and doing something stupid. And I know these guys would do something that crazy, as I mentioned, but still. So, anyways, here's my list, my tier rankings of the offseason. I mean, not the offseason, the trade deadline. But, anyways, that'll be it. Win TV. Appreciate you watching. Peace.